BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Well, it started as just kind of, a way to talk about these emerging markets, but now it's become this major force on the global scene. Back in 2009, they formed an official organization, added South Africa in 2010. And now, get this, they've invited 6 new members. Talk about a power move, right? Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates are all in. Saudi Arabia is still thinking it over, at least as of April 2024. But even without them, this expansion is a real game changer. It signals a move towards what experts call a multipolar world order. Basically, it means power isn't just concentrated in one place anymore. And BRICS is really positioning itself as a counterweight to the West, the institutions that have kind of been calling the shots for, well, forever. They're aiming to give a voice to the global South, those developing nations that haven't always had a seat at the table. So let's dive into why they chose these particular countries, right? What do they bring to the table? Egypt, for starters, they've got that strategic location controlling the Suez Canal. Huge implications for global trade. Then there's Ethiopia. Their economy's been booming, and they're big on renewable energy agriculture. It shows that BRICS is looking at Africa's potential, right? Now, Iran, that's an interesting one. They've got those oil and gas reserves, obviously, but they're also trying to shake off those Western sanctions. Their inclusion definitely sends a message, like BRICS isn't afraid to challenge the status quo in that region. The UAE, well, they're a global hub for finance and trade already. Plus, their own oil reserves and a growing tech sector. They add serious economic clout to BRICS. And then, of course, there's Saudi Arabia, the potential wild card. With their massive oil reserve, they could really solidify BRICS' position in global energy politics. Because, if they join, it's a real statement. Now, some folks see this expansion as a good thing, like it's a step towards a more balanced world where power is distributed more evenly. Others, though, are a little wary. They see it as a potential source of instability or, a challenge to the existing world order as we know it. Both sides have a point, right? It's important to think about both the benefits and the risks of this kind of multipolar shift. Now, one of the big criticisms of BRICS is, well, can they even get along? You've got internal divisions like that border dispute between India and China, and their economies are also different political systems. Can they really get on the same page? And then there's the question of, whose interests are they really serving? Are they truly representing the global South, or is this just a platform for, say, China to exert its influence? That's something we're going to dig into as we look at BRICS' financial strategies, so stay tuned for that. So BRICS isn't just about political power, right? They're building this whole financial system too, almost like they're trying to, create an alternative to the big global institutions like the World Bank, the IMF. And a key part of that is their new development bank, the NDD, headquartered in Shanghai. It's basically their answer to, like I said, the World Bank and the IMF, institutions that have always been dominated by the West. But the NDB is focused on giving loans and financial assistance to developing countries, especially for those big infrastructure projects that are, so important for growth. Some people might say, well, isn't that just creating another system? But I think it's more about a different perspective. The NDB is trying to address the specific needs and priorities of the global South and offering a different approach to lending, one that maybe works better for them. And that's not all. BRICS has this other thing, the Contingent Reserve Arrangement, the CRA. It's basically like a safety net for their members. Think of it as a pool of money that countries can access if they, hit a rough patch economically. Like, say, there's a sudden currency crisis. It helps them build up their financial resilience so they don't always have to rely on outside forces, which might, come with strings attached. So yeah, BRICS nations can support each other and weather those global economic storms a little better. But here's where it gets really, really interesting. BRICS has been talking about, get this, creating their own common currency, like rival the US dollar. The dollar's been king for so long, but this could really shake things up. I mean, imagine, right? BRICS nations and their trading partners could just bypass the dollar altogether. That would shift the balance of power in international trade and finance. It would be a huge deal, like a whole new era where, multiple currencies are competing. Of course, it's not going to be easy. Figuring out a stable exchange rate, that's a big challenge. And then there's the question of, monetary sovereignty, right? Would each country be willing to give up that much control over their own economic policies? It's a gamble for sure, but the payoff could be enormous. So, I mean, it makes you think, right, where is all this headed? Like, is BRICS really trying to build a more a more equitable world, one where power is more evenly spread out, or are they just changing who's in charge? One of the big criticisms you hear is that, well, this is all really about China, isn't it? The BRICS is basically a way for China to kind of throw its weight around, to reshape the world in its own image, and it's a valid point. Like, it makes you ask, okay, what kind of world order do we actually want? Because BRICS, they've definitely been, speaking up for those developing nations. They offer this alternative to the institutions that have been running things for so long. The ones that maybe haven't always had the best interests of the global South at heart. But I mean, there's no denying it. China's influence within BRICS is it's pretty big. And sometimes, some of the things China does on the world stage makes you wonder, are they really committed to, genuine cooperation? Or is it more about, getting ahead themselves? So, yeah, it's a tricky question. Is BRICS really about a fairer world? Or is it, like some people say, like a Trojan horse for China to kind of take over? Tough to say for sure. But okay, even if that's a risk, right? Think about the potential here. We could be moving towards this multipolar world where, power isn't just held by one country or one group of countries. Imagine that, right? Multiple centers of influence. They'd have to cooperate. They'd have to compete.
It could lead to, some really interesting things. Maybe more innovation. Maybe resources are distributed a little more fairly. Who knows? Of course, there'd be new challenges too. Like, how do you navigate that kind of world? Diplomacy would have to be a lot more nuanced. But hey, at least we wouldn't be at the mercy of just one dominant power, right? So yeah, I think BRICS, it's just one piece of this much bigger puzzle, but it's a sign of how things are changing. That the old way of doing things, it's being challenged, and whether that leads to something better, more just, more prosperous, well, we'll have to wait and see. But it's definitely something worth paying attention to. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into BRICS and what it all means. We've only just scratched the surface, really, but hopefully it's given you some food for thought. If you're as fascinated by this stuff as we are, be sure to subscribe to the show. We'll keep exploring the big trends shaping our world.
So until next time, keep asking questions, keep learning, and most importantly, keep an open mind.